This week on Full Credit to the Noise, Will Brown uses a 58mm air restrictor to great effect. Lando emerges victorious from the Dutch oven. And we have a huge announcement. Welcome to Full Credit to the Noise. Well, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Full Credit to the Noise. You can find this podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at FCTTN Podcast. You find me on Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, and Facebook at former_legend. You find the bloke across me on Twitter at AVL_motorsport. He's on Instagram at AVL.motorsport. He's a man who this week has been revealed as the face of Ipswich tourism. He's been named on an extended bench for the Swans' first final game in a fortnight's time. And tonight, he's wearing his favourite cosplay uniform of a Zorro mask and a cape. Welcome to Speak Cafe's Andrew Van Leeuwen.
Thank you, Former. I definitely do not want to be associated with the Sydney Swans in any way, shape or form right now. I can assure you of that.
You'd seem to be back into cosplay.
It's rare that something, particularly with everything going on in supercars at the moment, it's rare that something non-supercars related was the biggest talking point in the paddock over the weekend. But yeah, that whole very sad debacle was definitely a talking point. Let's put it that way.
How's their no dickheads policy going anyway?
Not great, I would imagine.
No. All right. Do you want to do the big announcement now?
Sure.
We're going to drip feed this because we've got to lock some things in place. But the Wednesday of the Bathurst week, we will be doing a live show. And we've spoken about it for a long time, but it's actually happening, AVL.
We're doing it. We are finally doing it.
We've got a venue. We've got tickets on sale already. We've given early access to our Discord members.
Yep.
And we've got...
See what, we've sold a few as well.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised how many we have sold. And they are limited. That's the other problem. So we might have gone too big too early in the Discord. But anyway, that's the benefits of being a member. So... we have two guests that we will announce in due course, but they are definitely going to be worth the price of admission alone. It is a no phones venue, so you cannot bring your phone in. If you bring your phone in, we will take it from you. We'll hold it for you securely. We'll go and see what we can get for it at Cash Converters. We will not do that. And then we will give it back to you at the end. It's all secure. It's how we used to do our shows for another show I used to work for. And never had one issue, but it's no phones. So that gives our guests the opportunity to speak their mind, and believe me, these two will have a lot to say on the night, AVL. Is there anything I've forgotten?
Well, it won't be recorded either. So it won't be recorded. It won't be released as a podcast. No one will be able to record it and send it to their mates and say, hey, did you hear this wild thing that Motorsport Personality X said? So if you want to be there, you have to be there. And that's really how we wanted to build this, is something that it's an in-person show. That's what it's all about. So it's going to be a lot of fun, I reckon. I think I've
already been asked, can we do a show at Sandown and at Gold Coast?
Let's just get through. Let's just get through the first one first. But yeah, Wednesday. Have we got a time on it? I haven't even looked at the details.
It's around 6. Doors will open at 6. We expect the show to start at 6:30. Yeah. Because we have to have people tucked in bed. That's what we'll say.
Yep. No, we definitely do. And not the guests. They can keep raging as long as they like into the night. But it's in a pub. Like, what a perfect place to do it. So it's super exciting.
And there's it is in a pub. And there's also some can we say about Authentic?
Oh, yeah. No, well, this is a joint venture with Authentic Collectibles, so there'll be some cool stuff. We will give you your phone back so you can buy things as well, because you're going to want to do that.
You might have to sell your phone to buy some of all the stuff that you'd probably want to buy. But, I think that's as much as we can say at the moment. We will have links to tickets on our socials coming forward, and also on speakcafe.com. I think that's about it at the moment.
Yep, we'll try and get that up in the next couple of days, I think, so people can get in there and get buying. Pack the joint out.
Really excited. So, all right. How was your week at Ipswich, or how has your week been at Ipswich? You went to the Super440, obviously.
It was good. It was a great event. Like, it really is.
Agree.
It's something that's been a big topic in the paddock and even between, Steph and my colleague and myself in the last couple of days. Like, it'll be so interesting to see what happens from here, because obviously there's all this talk around the future of the event. Is Phillip Island going to come in and replace it? Or, can the TRC contracts be negotiated for 15 rounds or whatever? But if we end up in a scenario where this event drops off, it will be a sad thing for a number of reasons, because firstly, it just has a great buzz about it. It really does. It has this sense of almost being a marquee event for something that's not a marquee event. And by that, I mean, like your big street circuit events and that sort of stuff. It really felt like on the Sunday night, the way Triple Eight was celebrating that sort of unexpected and come from behind win in the Sprint Cup, it feels like that means something, even though Brenton Grove, probably in hindsight rightly, spent the whole week saying that it didn't mean anything. So it felt like someone had won something special. There was a whole bunch of people around. Their facility looks fantastic. I don't care how many times you tell me how boring the layout is. It just creates fantastic racing, probably better than anywhere else in the country. So, yeah, if we lose this event, that would be a great shame. And I understand the realities of it. It's not as easy as saying that. It all comes down to how you fund these things. And that's the problematic part in terms of the fact that it doesn't have Queensland government support. But you would just hope there's some way to keep this event alive, because it does deserve its place on the Supercars calendar. It
looked good too on screen. The crowds were good. Like, they looked strong.
It was busy. Like, it was busy in the paddock. I didn't get out to the crowd area as much as I would have liked to. I normally like to take a wonder down to turn one, because actually watching cars go into turn one is pretty spectacular as well. But I didn't get a chance to do that over the weekend, so I couldn't sort of get a sense for what the crowd was like out in the wild. But it felt busy in the paddock, which is usually a pretty good sign.
Yeah, no, it looked good. Just to recap, on Saturday, race 1, Matty Payne put it on pole, but Brodie went out and won it. On race 2, Matty Payne put it on pole again. Will Brown went out to win. And then race 3 on Sunday, Will Brown put it on pole. Broc Feeney got the win. Matty Payne and Chaz Mostert, again, had engine issues. Well, Chaz anyway. And Feeney won the Sprint Cup. So it was a decent weekend.
He's really getting a lot of retribution from the racing gods, Broc Feeney, with engine issues helping him win the JR Trophy and now the Sprint Cup. I'm sure he'd rather something like that would be paid back in October or in November. But, he's scored a couple of trophies this year based on other people having issues. And you might say he deserves that after what played out in Adelaide last year.
Yeah, I think that's only fair. All right, after every round, we do the Champagne and Shies, and we'll start with Champagne from the round. And it's pretty hard to go past Will Brown, and I guess in some way 888 AVL. It's hard not to be happy for him, like, given what has happened, for him to then come out and perform the way he did after all the air restrictor controversy. I love the fact that he cut a deal to get his hands on the infamous airbox restrictor that he's now made into a makeshift champagne flute of all things. But you could tell it meant something to him, and there must have been times where, in the dark of night, he must have thought, "Is it me? Am I? Is the fault really at me?"
And I don't think you can rule out that at times it has been. Like, to be perfectly honest, because there were times last year where there were no issues with the engine, with that Chevrolet engine package. That 888 package was the fastest car in the field. And he had sort of dips in form. Like, it's a thing that happens. So I think that the one thing that is important to note is that, and he spoke about it and Andrew Edwards spoke about it, it wasn't just the restrictor. That obviously helps. And that was kind of the storyline of the weekend. And never more so than when he's up on the podium drinking champagne through the thing. But there was a lot of work that's gone in. That team in general has struggled to get its head around the Ford package. They've had tough rounds. Look at Townsville and that sort of stuff on both sides of the garage this year. So I think there were times where, and we know that Will was sort of put through this process of trying to sharpen up his focus on racing over the off-season, long before the restrictor was ever an issue, based on some of the problems he was having last year. So he might have been thinking at times this year, wow, can I still do this? But all of what we saw on the Saturday in particular, and even on the Sunday with that pole position, given the fact qualifying has been his weakness, was actually a whole lot of things coming together. in terms of the work they've done as a team to get their head around the Ford package, the work that Will's done to be better focused. He knew, and he spoke about this, he knew coming into the weekend that he had to perform this weekend because of the spotlight that was on him with the restrictor stuff. So he had a really focused, hard-working week getting prepared for the event. And all this stuff comes together, and he wins a race and scores a pole position. So it's a lot of things. And then the restrictor thing is just that last final bit of, all right, well, there's that last deficit that we don't have anymore. Like, we've worked so hard to get the car in the right window. I've worked so hard to be fitter and more focused than ever. And now we take out that last little issue and bang, right at the front. So, like an incredibly impressive weekend, no matter how you look at it. And he just had an incredible bounce in his step from Saturday morning onwards when he out-qualified Broc Feeney twice. Again, something he struggled to do well back into last year, not just this year. So, and from that point on, he was just up and away. And it was, it could really set up a very important second half of the season for him.
Is it just me that thinks that it's now on between those two?
Oh, yeah. No, definitely. Definitely. Yeah. And I do think that made Sunday mean a fair bit more for Broc as well, because he hasn't necessarily been accustomed to having a great challenge from the other side of the garage, particularly in qualifying. So he was out-qualified by Will in all three races. And I reckon that would have stung, because Broc is just so competitive. Both of them are. I think that win would have felt even better than usual, A, because obviously it yielded a trophy, but B, because he did get that one back up on the other side of the garage. And he was the first to admit on Saturday night that he was really happy to see Will back in form and happy and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. But I think, it doesn't go far. And I think by Sunday he was ready to get back on top, and in qualifying he didn't, but in the race he got his elbows out. Not that they really touched too much in that first lap, but he pulled off a big move at turn 3, and that set him up for a win, and I reckon that would have felt pretty good as well. So it's going to be fun to watch the dynamic between those two sides of the garage for the rest of the season, for sure.
Hey, my next champagne, and this is a little bit of left field thinking here, but while everyone else is looking for oil companies and sports betting and energy drinks for sports sponsorship, has there ever been a better time to hit up a caravan company for some cash? I was just looking around the paddock on the weekend. You got Snowy River, you got JB Caravans that are with TW, you got Vacationer Caravans with Eggleston, Jayco are in the Super Utes. There must be money in caravans, AVL.
I reckon. Have you ever seen the price of one of those things?
Well, mate, it's not for me, I'm not going to lie, but
you're a big man to roll around in a caravan. Mate, I don't know they make beds long enough for you to sleep in.
Mate, I'd be laying in the front seat and out the back. But it's crazy. Well, it's not crazy, but it's fantastic that I wonder whether it's this thing of once you get one group in, you can't afford not to be in it as well.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
My next champagne goes to, just Ford Mustangs. They just dominate on the weekend. Top five in race 1, top 4 in race 2, 9 out of 10 in the shootout on Sunday. There was no chefs. It's coming up to Bathurst, AVL. Did someone say parity?
Yeah, I reckon there might be a bit to play out in that space in the not too distant future.
Yeah,
it's a good time to have a bit of a parity trigger. To be honest, we saw that last year with some changes to the Ford Mustang before the bend that worked out pretty well.
If you're writing for a motorsport news website, it must be just manna from heaven. The reaction, the whole thing. My final champagne has got nothing to do with supercars, but my God. Did you see last night Gabriel Bortoletto spinning as he got onto the main straight of lap 1 in Zandvoort, and then Nico Hulkenberg avoiding him, and it was something out of Days of Thunder. He just drove towards the smoke, and it was unbelievable. If you haven't seen it, go and have a look. Max Verstappen had his own bust up and turned his car into a canoe. But,
Liam Lawson did quite well to get around him as well, to be honest. But I'm not sure. I mean, in these cases, you can talk about how amazing the driving was. It's pretty much dumb luck in most cases.
Your bottom lip and hang on.
Pick a side or whatever, your reflexes kick in and you go, well, I'm going here and hoping for the best. And particularly in Hulkenberg's case, I think that's exactly what happened.
Yep. My Shizen, AVL. I'm going to put it down to KO and Fox and not the Supercars broadcast team. But 2 cameras on both Friday and Saturday just kept freezing. One was at turn 3, one was at turn 6. I got so many messages in my inbox, and it also was on Discord. Everyone was complaining about it.
Yeah, it was a weird thing because it seemed to be isolated to those platforms. Because even
it wasn't on the screens, they reckon.
Big screen wasn't an issue. I know in the commentary booth it wasn't an issue, so it was something that potentially took longer to identify because it wasn't actually a universal issue. It was just, but the KO stream was definitely doing it. It was doing it the same in our office at the track where we had KO running, so it was definitely a thing that was happening.
Driving me crazy. My next Shizen is BJR's Big Dollar Screwdriver. On Friday, if you didn't get to see it on the TV coverage, they caught a screwdriver falling out the front of the Supra of Macaulay Jones. It cost the team $7, so it's super cheap for a new screwdriver, but also a fine of $500. So all up, it's about $507, which is about the price you'd probably pay for a screwdriver at one of Super Cheap Auto's competitors, AVL. Yeah. Bad blue.
Very good. Yeah, no, it is that they're always awkward, those things, when stuff gets left in cars. I think it kind of fell down into one of the side skirts or somewhere down there and they couldn't retrieve it, so the car goes out and out it comes.
Next Shizen is the Toyota B-Spec engines. I think we'll touch on this later on in the show, but the famous Bartholomeus spec engine in the Supras doesn't look to be any more reliable than the AVL spec engines, with Chath Mostert having a DNF on Sunday. Refreshingly, it wasn't Woody. That was one thing, I suppose.
Yeah. I don't know that Stefan wants his name attached to that engine right now as well. But no, there's been a fair bit of work going on. We just published, as we record on Monday evening, we just published a story with an update on this. So basically what happened, this was obviously deeply concerning for the team because there's been so much made about the reliability upgrade of this B-Spec engine. There was 4 of them out there on the weekend, and one of them in Chaz's car failed. And, you know, given there's just it's a bit bigger issue than, like, it would always be a big issue, right, heading to the Enduro's reliability. But obviously when you're racing as the factory Toyota team, a brand built on reliability, this is something there's probably an additional urgency to get on top of. So because the teams have stayed in Queensland for the test, I'll say today, being Tuesday, they pulled Chaz's motor out on the Sunday night. It was sent to Craig Hasted's workshop in Brisbane. He runs the Supercars engine program. Every engine in every supercar goes through his dyno before it's sealed and goes in the cars. And he also works very closely with the HTs on the spec of their engine and helping getting them to where they need to get to. So he's a pretty important part of the process for all of the manufacturers. So they took that motor to his workshop in Brisbane on Monday. It was obviously torn down. They found a bottom end bearing failure. So as a they need to pull all the motors apart, all the B-Spec motors apart now, and see if there's obviously signs of similar wear and tear that could lead to failures in the other ones. So as we sit here and record on Monday night, I'm guessing it's pretty busy out at Queensland Raceway because there's 4 Supras that had the A-Spec motor going back into it. Good weekend to be a crew on Macaulay Jones's car because he ran the A-Spec the whole time. They didn't have to put one in for the race weekend, and they don't have to now take one out and put another one back in for tomorrow. So a big win for the guys on Macaulay's car, although I dare say they would have been drafted in to help with the other 2 cars. But they will go back to the A-Spec for the test because you obviously just can't run the risk, as much as there is some risk attached to the valve train issues in the A-Spec. You can't run the risk if this is a wider ranging issue of getting half an hour into Tuesday's running and having an engine failure and then missing that day because it's such an important day of running. So that's what's happening. But the team has said that their plan is absolutely to have all the B-Specs in across all 5 Supras for the Bend. And then I would think by Bathurst, if not by the Bend, then by Bathurst, obviously 2 engines per car. So there's a spare as well because at the end of the day, Bathurst is the big one. And that's where you need everything working. But yeah, definitely. I'm sure there's some relief that the issue has been identified. I guess there'll be more relief when these additional engines have been inspected. If there is, if they can find out that this was any sort of one-off. But until then, pretty concerning given the work that's gone into getting this B-spec engine ready.
My final Shizen, and look, this isn't a pile on AVL, but when a bloke with 256 starts under his belt is racing with, and on Sunday, being beaten by drivers making their debuts in wildcards, I don't think something's right. And Macca Jones, whether it's an engine thing, a car thing, a driver thing, I don't know because I'm not in the team. And from all reports, a tremendous young bloke. And so it's not a personal shot, but geez, it's not a good look when you got 2 wildcards in front of him and one lapping at his heels. So, and I can tell you, of all the drivers in the field, for some reason, Macca Jones gets more in my inbox than anyone else.
Yeah, look, I mean, for starters, it wasn't a great weekend for the Toyotas in general. Chaz seemed to drag some speed out of it. But I don't think we're talking about a Queensland Raceway specific sort of thing here. Like, ultimately, Macaulay generally does race closer to the back of the field than the front of it. But motorsport is just a different sport. That's the reality. It might be frustrating, but it is not across the board in any category, in any part of the world, purely a performance-based sport. There's just more to it. And this is nothing new, that there's drivers out there that aren't necessarily before. I guess it's no different to the footy team. There's good players and players that aren't as good as those other players, right? Like it's a tough thing to talk about, but it's just a very unique sport, and Macaulay has his place in it for a range of reasons that aren't necessarily driven purely by performance, because if they were, it's a fair comment to say that he wouldn't necessarily have spent this long in the championship. Like, that's just the reality of it. But motorsport doesn't work the same as other sports. It is just what it is. And you have different conversations about drivers at the front of the field because it is a different kind of model up there in terms of the way the employment of the drivers works. And it's a bizarre sport like that. Like, it really is. But it's nothing new. It's nothing new.
I get that, and you're probably right. And then we actually got in a conversation in the Discord that touched on that, and then one or two other drivers and people calling out them as well. But as you sort of are aware, and we're all aware, that is some of these drivers bring, or the sponsors are quite in love with them. So getting rid of the driver may well get rid of the sponsor. And I don't know many teams that can afford to do that.
Well, that's exactly right. Yeah.
All right, let's go to the shift cut because we'll touch on the Dutch Grand Prix. 4, 3, 1. And we'll start with sprint qualifying on, Saturday, where George Russell took his third sprint pole this season after pipping Lando Norris in the qualifying. And then in the sprint race, I tell you, that was a tough watch, AVL. He led from start to finish. There were 2 changes of position in the entire top 10 for the entire race. Yeah. And that race would basically, it would have put a glass eye to sleep. There's more excitement trying to catch a train to the track, apparently, because there were thousands of fans left stranded at Zandvoort train station due to cancellation and delays. If you haven't seen it, have a look around for some social media about just the crowd numbers. It's incredible, the amount of people that were there.
Yeah. No, some of the TV pictures were amazing in those grandstands, just full of orange. It does look very cool.
Saturday Grand Prix qualifying, Lando Norris stuck it on pole from the hall monitor. Kimi was third, Oscar was fourth, and then the Ferraris and so on and so forth. In the Grand Prix last night, Norris got the jump from pole before a massive crash on lap 1, as we touched on before. It red flagged the race. Max had the mother of all power snaps that led him head on into the wall. And as we said, Bortoletto then had his own spin and was unbelievably missed by his teammate Nico Hülkenberg. The field actually did a remarkable job to miss both those blokes, given the way the smoke was hanging around and everything else. From there was a real strategy-heavy race, AVL. Lando Norris led throughout. I kind of gave up on it. Antonelli grabbed it second from the hall monitor, the Ferraris and Oscar. Liam Lawson was 7th in his guest appearance in the Red Bull, which was a pretty good drive. And adding to that, the Aston Martin revival continues with Alonso getting points running in 9th. I know you celebrated at your place about that.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was better than a decent drive for Liam Lawson. I think he did everything that he could have possibly done, I think.
Yeah, the car looks like that's where it's at, right?
He was very close to Max in qualifying, really, for someone who hasn't been racing that car all year. And then kind of went toe to toe with him at parts on that first lap anyway before the crash, and then, or was that in the sprint race? Maybe no, that was in the race. That was in the main race. So
in the race, yeah,
yeah. So I think that was a really good drive. Like, he really needed to be ahead of the RBs, which is easier said than done, particularly Arvid Lindblad. And it kind of felt like, because you sort of go, well, if Lindblad's the golden boy, why didn't he get the call up? But maybe that's because it was probably seen as a bit of a hospital pass to go in there and do it. And they sort of went, well, we'll get Liam to do it. And he did a fantastic job. So I reckon he would have taken immense satisfaction out of how that race played out, because he did a really good job there. So I think that was one thing worth noting. And the other thing is that, like, just an unbelievably tough race for Oscar Piastri.
Again,
like, just bizarre lack of pace compared to his teammate who's out there winning the race. I could not follow what strategy that they were trying to play out. Like, when they went to hards after the red flag, it's like, are they going to try and run to the end? And then the next thing, he seemed to be trying to set a world record for amount of pit stops in one race. Like, it was just in and out of the pits, and yeah, very, very strange. And I'm guessing pretty disappointing from his side of the garage, because in both cases, you've got Lando Norris either on pole or winning the race, and Oscar not in the press conference for the top three, which is always a bad sign.
Yep. It was, like you say, on that strategy, he was on a hard. George Russell goes in, so they go and cover him off by sticking him on a medium. It's like, what are you doing? Like, he had a hard, and he was actually said, they asked him only moments before, how's the hard? And he said, but it doesn't feel any different to the medium, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was hard to, strategy was hard to follow in general. It was a difficult race. It was a much better race, because you're right, the sprint was just woeful in terms of a racing product. It was a better race than probably I was expecting, but it was very complicated to try and follow it.
Yeah. During the week, James Vowell revealed that he feared Williams would lose both Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz after his difficult start to the 26 Formula One season, with both drivers having now committed to the team for 27. He said, I was concerned about losing them both because they are World Championship material drivers that deserve the opportunity to be fighting for podiums or more, and we haven't delivered that. And, geez, I wouldn't want to be holding my breath waiting for that to happen either. AVL, I was talking to someone else about this. Carlos Sainz, is this really where he's at in a Williams?
Well, he's made the longer of the commitments, right? I think he's made the longer of the commitments. So I think Albon's keeping his options open a little bit, but kind of just taking on the next season. But Carlos is kind of all in on it. So it is kind of Williams' biggest strength at the moment, is the fact they've got two pretty good Grand Prix drivers in those cars, in a car that doesn't seem all that fast. So it is actually a great coup for the team to keep them both. It seems like James Vowles is very good at selling the dream. You know, like, even the fact they got Carlos to come there compared to going to like a factory Audi program is pretty impressive. So he's kind of done it again, and we'll see where they go. But it'll all come down to whether they can make that car better, because at the moment it's just not overly quick.
And then they collided with cars in it. They collided with each other.
Oh, they did too.
Race,
that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Tremendous look.
Great. Yep.
Just one thing after another. Back to Supercars, and the prodigal son, David Cauchi, will make a surprise return to Triple Eight after taking over engineering duties on Will Brown's Ford Mustang moving forward after this race just gone. The move will come as Brown's existing race engineer, Andrew Edwards, takes a promotion to a head of performance role. For those that don't know, Prodigal Son is a story where a son leaves his family, gets sued by his family, works for another team against his own family before returning to his family, getting one of the other sons moved out of his job and going back to work on a part-time basis. So pretty similar to what's happening here, AVL. Triple Eight Managing Director Jamie Whincup said the team was keen to snap up Cauchi, who had worked outside the sport since leaving Grove Racing at the end of 25. Cauchi's previous stint at Triple Eight was from 2007 to 21, including engineering Whincup to 2 championship titles. We've been looking to build engineering depth at Triple Eight for some time now, and when you have the opportunity of someone you know is 100% the person for the job, then you have to make that move. Life is about taking those opportunities. Couchy's departure from Triple Eight was tumultuous, let's not forget, with the team taking legal action following his arrival at Grove amid a dispute over gardening leave. But he was excited for a return to the House of Eights. He said, I spent 14 years at Triple Eight with J-Dub as his engineer, experienced many incredible highs and, of course, some lows along the way. I'm both excited and grateful for the opportunity. It'll be a baptism of fire going into the Enduro Cup part of the season, but I can't wait to work with Will as well as some of the new and many old teammates. All right, AVL.
Yep.
Time for our weekly questions from the cheap seats.
Gotcha.
I'll ask you this first. Does the timing of this seem a bit off given the recent events around the restrictor kerfuffle?
The timing was definitely really strange given how the weekend played out, and the timing of the announcement actually changed because it was meant to be announced on Saturday evening, but there was just so much going on that the idea of having this remarkable victory and having Will Brown and Andrew Edwards so emotional about it and then immediately announcing that they're not going to be directly working with each other, as in that race engineer-driver relationship anymore, would have been really strange. But to be honest, it wasn't that much less strange at 8 o'clock the next morning. Because so the timing of it from an announcement point of view was absolutely bizarre. The general timeline, because I think that's what you're sort of talking about, it doesn't match up with it being a direct response to the restrictor issue in terms of we found this issue and we're making changes to the team based on it. But it's clearly related to the performance issues that Triple Eight has faced so far this year, and particularly on the car Triple Eight side of the garage. So the line from Triple Eight is that it needed to fill the void left by Jeremy Moore in the senior technical management. But the fact it's a mid-season engineer shift does suggest that there's just something more to it than that. And there was obviously a lot of Will Brown and Andrew Edwards love after that win on Saturday, but breaking up a partnership like that in any circumstance is a big deal, particularly midway through the season. And it's difficult to fully believe there wasn't a sense somewhere that perhaps that partnership wasn't working. So even though the funny part is the results on the weekend just gone suggest that it definitely was working, and that there was this external issue that was playing a reasonably significant role in why they were underperforming. So it's all really interesting. Stefan and I actually broke down some of the nuances of the whole thing in the Sunday daily pod that we did, the Sunday night pod. So that's worth a listen for anyone looking to understand it a bit more. But yeah, it does feel like there's elements of this that are more complicated than what's kind of being presented on the surface.
Next question from the cheap seats. Will Groves think much of this, and what will they be overly concerned about IP?
Well, in the Gen 3 world, there's less engineering IP, I guess, but in terms of designing uprights and things like that. But yeah, you would think that Groves would prefer someone with intimate knowledge of their well-performing race team wasn't standing in the garage next door. I think that's a pretty natural reaction to something like this happening.
And is there any sort of hangover from the previous animosity between Triple Eight, when Couchy went to the Groves?
Well, there's clearly not if they've come to this arrangement, because it's obviously something they've moved on from with his departure and the legal stoush over the gardening leave and all that sort of stuff. So it was an issue at the time, but memories can be short in motorsport when it comes to making moves that you feel can improve performance. So it's obviously one of those cases. And as you touched on before, David Couchy was Jamie Wincup's race engineer for 7 years, and he was at the team for 14 years. So there's a lot of history there that can't necessarily be entirely dissolved by one flashpoint of friction over the gardening leave thing. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. There's just a few interesting things about it, and one of them is the part-time nature of it. So he's going to stay in his role as in a COO role for a business that manages a whole 11 Bridgestone retailers across Queensland, and then do the race engineering as a part-time thing. And it's a very un-Triple Eight model to do it that way. Triple Eight's always been a live and breathe this kind of organisation, and yeah, it's interesting to think that you've suddenly got a dynamic, and obviously you've got Andrew Edwards overseeing both cars, but you've got a dynamic where you've got one engineer that will be effectively a weekend warrior and phoning in for debriefs and pre-briefs, and then on Broc Feeney's side of the garage, there's Marty Short, who wakes up every day and thinks about nothing except making Broc Feeney's car go as fast as it can possibly go. Mm-hmm. So maybe it doesn't matter. Like maybe it makes no difference. I don't know. I've never worked at a team. I'm not a technical person, but it's to me that's just another interesting part of this whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of. I don't know when you guys found out about it, but it sort of jumped up pretty quickly over Saturday, and it was like, what? And I'm thinking that can't be right. Before too long, and I'm talking, it was kind of broken in the Discord. Someone sort of mentioned it. And then within the space of probably an hour, it was almost official. So yeah,
it was just the whole. It was just the most bizarre thing to come out of that Saturday. Like it was the most it was the most unexpected thing that could possibly have emerged out of.
Oh, there was you promote another podcast. That was strange.
Well, yeah, of course. That's all. A rising tide floats all boats for me. That's
good call. Fair enough. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, it was certainly, and obviously it wasn't the work of. It didn't happen on Saturday night. None of this happened on Saturday night, but. If you had to pick what announcement would happen or something that would happen after the way Saturday played out, boy, that just was not it.
Strange.
Yeah.
New Zealand's next F1 hopeful, Louis Sharp, who I met over summer, lovely young fella, has conceded his season is over and he's left Prema with 2 rounds remaining in the FIA Formula 3 Championship after the 2 parties agreed to end his campaign early. There's more questions and answers on that.
Well, I mean, I don't know much about it, but it's an expensive business, that FIA ladder system. Like you think,
I hear you.
You think Super 2 is expensive? Like, go over there and have a crack at
that. Let's go to Kiwis and Aussies overseas. We'll start with IndyCar, the Grand Ballroom 250 at the Washington Supercross track. From best I can tell, did you see any of this?
No, I didn't see a bit of it.
Oh, no. Mate, it's wild. This track. It's like a Supercross track in a couple of the corners. Cars were just getting spat left and right under brakes, where it just looked like there was no driver error. It was just the way the track was configured. And qualifying, Scotty McLaughlin was 3rd, Marcus Armstrong 5th, Will Power 13th, and Scotty Dixon 14th. The race got underway with the Don limply waving a green flag, I'm not going to lie. Scotty McLaughlin walled it, going for the lead with a dozen laps to go. Will Power grabbed 3rd, coming from 13th. And another remarkable drive from Will. Scotty Dixon was 7th and Marcus Armstrong 17th in a race won by Kyle Kirkwood. If you do get a chance, go and have a look at the highlights, mate, because that track is crazy. NASCAR in the Tariffs for Dummies 400 at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Shane Van Gisbergen qualified 5th, his equal best oval spot in qualifying. And he led the opening stands of the race before fading to finish 20th. Ryan Blaney got the win. In motocross, AVL, I know you've been asking for it. Hunter Lawrence dominated the weekend's round at Budds Creek to reclaim points, a lead, and set up a winner-take-all championship showdown with his brother Jet this weekend at Indiana. The brothers have won every round of the 10 rounds this year to date. So, and finally, I thought I'd play this with you. I'm going to give you 4 quotes from Stefano Domenicali. Well, you tell me which one's an actual quote from the president and chief executive officer of Formula One, and if 1, 2, 3, or 4 are made up. Okay?
So three are fake and one's real.
4 might be fake, 2 might be fake, or none might be fake.
Oh, okay. So I've got to pick which ones are real.
Yes.
Gotcha.
This one. There are diehard motorsport fans who talk about clipping during a Formula One weekend, but there are also many who think of a clip as something to put in your hair.
That one is definitely true.
Number 2, no one is interested in how you drive your car. I had an interesting discussion with George Lucas in Hungary.
It's true. It's true. No, there's no better example of an everyman than George Lucas. If he can't speak for the masses, then who can?
When I want to talk Formula One, I ring the bloke who made Star Wars.
Exactly.
Number 3. Mm-hmm. F1 has not had any problems. F1's in great shape, just to make sure that's clear to everyone. And the vast majority of fans have been, since the beginning, very positive about this new series, what they see in terms of race action.
Yeah, that one's got to be true, I reckon.
All right, number 4. The traditional tracks will never lose their place in our calendars. That's for sure.
I'll go with that one being not true. No, actually true.
True as well.
I'm changing it
to
true.
True as well. Mate, he is wild, this bloke, I'm telling you. Yeah. He's got the, anyway, it's what he says next. It makes that Mohammed bin Salem look, well, normal, let's be honest, except for when he strokes your hair. He'd love your hair. Look at it.
It's a heck of a combo running this whole deal, isn't it?
All right, we'll come back from a break and we'll do what's the forward headline from the weekend.
Full credit to noise.
Winter could spell bad news for your vehicle's battery. Here are 3 maintenance tips from the battery gurus at R&J Batteries. 1. Avoid frequent short trips to keep your battery at a healthy state of charge. 2. Keep the battery terminals clean and corrosion-free. 3. Avoid running your accessories with the engine off for too long. If your battery is 3 years or older, it might be time to get it tested for free at your local R&J Batteries. R&J Batteries. Power like nothing else.
Yeah, welcome back now. Let's do what's the forward headline, AVL. So if you haven't heard this before, I'm going to give you a topic. You just give me a forward headline, and I don't reckon any of mine are 4 words. So strap yourself in. Go as hard as you want. My first topic, Will Brown. What's your headline for Will Brown?
888 Garage Dynamic Wonder Watch.
Okay. Mine is new billet wine glass line set to dominate merch sales. If he doesn't turn that into a decanter or something, I'm telling you, he'll sell 100 of them.
Yep.
Matt Payne. Poor Matt Payne. What's your forward headline?
Lucky Groves didn't care about the Sprint Cup anymore.
I got the same. I didn't want the trophy anyway.
Yeah. Just a dust collector. You don't need it.
Yeah. Premier Racing. What's your forward headline?
I hope that was a parody play. Because if it wasn't, that was not a good
Mine
weekend.
is imagine if they weren't at their home track.
Yeah. Not that home tracks really mean much these days. Anyway,
no, I get it. What about Ryland Gray? Thought he had a good weekend.
Yeah, heading in the right direction. Apart from turn 3, obviously, in whatever race it was where he speared off. I think it was the
went straight on.
Second race on the Saturday.
Yeah, I just wrote the progression continues. I think it hasn't been as fast as what Ryan Wood was doing, but there's some good signs.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Wood and Kai Allen set a pretty high bar for sort of coming in and getting up to speed pretty quickly. So they're tough acts to follow, and Ryland's definitely not on that immediate trajectory, but there's certainly some promising signs.
Yep. Bailey Hall, what's your forward headline for the Super Cheap
Loves a super soft tyre race because he drove forward in that in the super soft race on the Saturday evening. So that was definitely the big positive for him to take out of the weekend.
I wrote, looks like he could do with a test day. One test day short, probably.
Yep, that's a pretty fair one as well.
What about Broc Feeney?
I see the Will Brown answer. That applies to both of them.
I wrote, that's right. The other guy's good too.
Yeah, because he definitely is.
Yeah, he was kind of forgotten after the whole Will Brown thing, but Sunday there was a big reminder. Toyota Racing, your forward headline.
In terms of like the Toyotas in general, like the
if you want,
I think it's just plenty of nerves. Like it'll be a nervous time for those guys at the moment in terms of getting these engines sorted. That was
B-Spec Bartholomeus Donk blows bits.
Yep.
And so it is that they're back with the A's. Finally, I love this from last night. George Russell, what's your forward headline?
Even on a good weekend, he gets beaten by Kimi.
Oh, my God. Mate, did you see him? I don't know about you, and I'm not an apologist for George Russell. Would you have let Kimi through?
Yeah, that was odd. Yeah.
I would have said, I don't think so.
That did seem very... he seemed weirdly upbeat for the fact he just dropped more points as well after the race. Obviously, he would have been pretty G'd up by that defence at the end there and kind of how well he did drive. But it was a good weekend and he still dropped points.
My forward headline was Timu Barrichello, a good, solid rear gunner.
Yep.
Because that's where he might be going. But, I thought that was odd, and I thought that he would have said, I'm not letting him through, just so you know. Yeah. If he wants to come through, he's quite welcome to have a crack. All right, we'll go to a break. We'll come back with rear of grid and credit or shred.
Full credit to noise.
Yeah, welcome back to rear of grid. I seen there was, at one stage on the weekend, there was something like 60 active people in the Discord at any one time.
Had a lot of recent sign-ups as well, which is awesome.
I've seen that.
So there's more people coming in. There's more good discussion, and there is things like early access to tickets to the live show because there is a surprising chunk of the allocation already gone, based off the fact that we've released it in the Discord. So many benefits to getting involved, and it's just good fun. You learn things before others out there. Let's put it that way. If you're part of the
that's
fun.
true. Yeah, that was true on the weekend. If you haven't seen it, go to fcttn.com and sign up from there. You get an email and it'll give you all the directions. All right, 6 credit or shred it. So I'm going to make a statement. You agree with the credit or disagree with the shred it. We'll revisit them after we've done all 6. Number 1, the poor and ongoing issues with the TV product is in danger of turning supercar fans off the series.
Shred it.
Credit. Number 2, Oscar Piastri is now a clear number 2 at McLaren.
Credit.
Credit. Number 3, the new Ford LMDH hypercar is the greatest sounding race car in history.
I have to say shred it.
I'll say shred it, but I tell you what, it's in the final, put it that way. Number 4, Triple Eight as a collective would have rather not made public the whole restricted debacle, and Will Brown's results of the weekend only make it worse for the team.
Credit with a but.
I'll say credit. Number 5, here we go. Premiere are no better off with Roland Dane at the team.
Shred it.
Credit. Number 6, Queensland Raceway is the best track for racing and spectating in Australia.
Credit, yeah.
Yeah, I'll say credit. All right. You say the TV product is not in danger of turning
I don't think
fans.
you stop being a fan of supercars because of niggling TV issues. I don't buy that as a theory.
I'm telling you, on Friday and Saturday, it was so frustrating, AVL. So frustrating because you were just watching cars freeze.
It'd have to be pretty bad to say, well, I don't care who wins this car race anymore because of some issues like that. So,
well, I know one guy, only one, who messaged me and said, I'm watching the cricket.
Yeah.
Which probably meant he was back watching the supercars by about 3 o'clock in the RB because that didn't last long either. So
exactly. And to be honest, race 1 was not a ball-tearing race by any stretch of the imagination at Queensland Raceway. But, if you're turning off races 2 or 3 because of some of those issues, then I don't think you're a car racing fan in the first place because that was great theatre and they were fantastic races.
They were. We could talk about that all day. Oscar Piastri is now a clear number 2 at McLaren.
He can't argue it. Lando has a massive edge on him in pace at the moment.
Yep.
It's a pretty undeniable trend.
Yep, I agree. It's unfortunate. The new Ford LMDH hypercar is the best sounding race car in history. I haven't
heard it, so I've got no idea what it sounds
It's
like.
unbelievable.
It's a tough one for me to answer.
I'll send you a link. It's great. It's very Cadillac-ish.
If it sounds as good as the Dark Horse Mustang that I was ripping laps around Queensland Raceway in last Friday night, then it's definitely in with a shout.
I'll send you a link. I think you'll be impressed. Triple Eight Collective would rather not made public the whole restricted debacle.
Yeah, this is a really interesting one. Because,
would they have been better off not saying anything? What happens then?
Well, so it depends what side of the fence you're sitting on here, right? As a journalist, I'm so happy it rolled out the way that it did. It was great. If I was a comms person working for the team, I would definitely have been suggesting to say nothing until after the weekend. And I think within the garage, there were different opinions on what would have been the better approach. But ultimately, they decided to go public. I feel like that's something that Will Brown did actually want, despite the pressure it brought. I think he needed that kind of he needed that to be out there, that there had been this issue that had been holding him back. And to be honest, he fed off that pressure and fed off the kind of attention around that and put it to incredible use. So, they decided to go public with this whole thing, and we got the amazing storyline that we got. So it's again, I think there's different opinions in the garage about whether it was the right approach or the wrong approach, but it was an approach and it kind of paid off okay. As for the result, in terms of Will's results making it worse, I don't know if it made it worse, but I think what probably did make it worse for both the team and Supercars was all this parading of the restrictor on the podium and all that sort of stuff that we've kind of referenced before. Again, great fun for us, great theatre, great TV, all that sort of stuff. But I reckon there's people on both the Supercars and Triple Eight side that would have loved to have never seen that thing ever again, let alone have tens of thousands of people watching Will drink champagne through it on TV and at the circuit. So that was a really bizarre thing. The whole presentation of the trophy, lots of fun, not against it, but it was certainly a weird look for the sport.
I've thought about it since it all happened and the whole thing, and the only reason I can think that they did release it to the public, well, two reasons. Maybe it would have got out, which might have made it worse. But two, I reckon Will Brown has said, I want people to know.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. Yep.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised at all.
Premier are no better off with Roland Dean at the team.
I'd still rather have him there.
I'd say results say that that's true, but
yeah, but like we're still pretty early in this whole thing. And to be honest, some of Jaden Ojada's results have been fantastic this year. It was obviously a really tough weekend. These things take time. So if I owned Premier, if I was Peter Zibris, I would much rather have Roland there than not have him there. I think that's too short a term view. Okay. What's being proposed there?
Saying that, I think we were in a discussion in the Discord last night. Be interesting to airdrop Roland Dean into a couple of other teams and see what would happen, what he made of the way they ran. But you can find that in the Discord if you want to go back and have a look. Number 6, Queensland Raceway. I mean, just unbelievable on the weekend. I think we spoke about it last week, and we actually said that people will bag the joint, but there's been some fantastic racing there, and on the weekend we see more of it.
Produces great racing. It just does.
Yep.
Time and time again. It's we talk about there being great driving circuits and great racing circuits, and that's definitely a great racing circuit. And ultimately, that's what we want to see, because you look at something like Zandvoort, that's a great driving circuit, but then we get races like the sprint race, which was really, really pretty boring. So QR is a great racing circuit. It has all the ingredients to create racing, and we just saw so much of it. Race 1, like I said, was not an absolute thriller, but those other 2 races, just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and I think the crowds there that you saw reflected that. It just looked, the hill up the top, look, it wasn't early 2000s, but I'll tell you, it wasn't far off it. There were lots and lots of people, so...
Yep.
Yeah. All right, let's have a rest. You've got stuff to do. That'll about do us for this episode of Full Credit to the Noise. You can find this podcast on all the socials at FCTTN Podcast. Read AVL's excellent work over at speedcafe.com, where they do break all the big motorsport news first. Until next time, I've been former Legend. He's been AVL. This has been Full Credit to the Noise, and we'll see you at the Muscle Car Masters.
See you there.
Full Credit to the Noise.